I wanted to do was read an article that came out today, March the 29th at, I guess, 7 o'clock this morning. Talks about Tacoma. Now, I've seen a couple of articles prior to this that kind of hinted to the same thing, and it kind of mentioned reference to this. And it talked about the housing situation down in Tacoma and what's going on, and the fact that Tacoma has really gained a tremendous amount of people, so much to the point of where the housing market now is getting worse down there. But this article, and those were actually in the past few days, this article here in the Tacoma Tribune is by Matt Driscoll, and it says the unstable housing market exacerbated by influx of new residents. Now, in this article, he pretty much meets with one of the real estate agents that's here in the area, and she pretty much talks about what she has seen. Now, before I get to that, I've mentioned a few times we looked for houses when we first got here 2 years ago, and there was really not a problem with finding a home. I mean, even in Hilltop, it was pretty easy to find a home that was for sale, and the prices were not that bad. I mean, we're talking 160s for a house. And so we actually even put an offer in on a house, and we were the only person, or Noelle and I were the only ones that put in for the house. And we backed out for two reasons. One, the person that was selling the house didn't get back with us in time, and for two, the realtor found some more information about the person that she didn't really like and how they actually flipped houses. So there was cause of concern there. And then we noticed structural issues on the foundation side that just didn't seem to look too good for me. So we decided to not go for it, but it was pretty easy. The guy was even willing to sell for a smaller amount than what because you go in there, you offer a lower amount. He was totally happy with that. We offered, I think, $155,000, $10,000 less, I believe, and he was totally fine with that. You fast forward now, and they said even 2017 is worse than it was in 2016. Now, keep in mind, we looked at this back in 2014, 2015, where we looked at this house. It's now a completely different story. So it says Marguerite Guerrieri, and I'm sure I'm butchering that name, said that she wasn't surprised by the numbers. Excuse me, I'm still a little sick. She said spring is going to stink. She's a local real estate agent, and she's behind the move to Tacoma.com site. She said that her niece is in the second year of the business. She's probably not going to have a day off for the next 4 or 5 months. That's how busy she is. Stink was not the exact word that the lady used. You get the point. Still, her forecast brings us to the larger takeaway, which was just as obvious. She represents people who are attempting to buy a home in Tacoma and knows the reality on the ground. She knows how difficult that proposition has become over the past year, and at least anecdotally, she already knew what census data made clear this week. Of course, there's an article here in the Seattle Times even that is talking about the same situation that's going on down in Tacoma. A whole bunch of people moved to Pierce County last year, which is Tacoma, like a whole bunch, as Balk reported, of the more than 3,100 counties in the nation. So there's 3,100 counties in the United States. None saw a bigger jump in the number of movers from the other counties last year than Pierce. So Pierce County, Washington, saw more people moving excuse me, than any other county in terms of moving from county to county. What earned us this remarkable distinction? The increase is net migration. In 2015, nearly 5,000 more people moved from the United States, from the U.S., moved to Pierce County. Now, this is only talking about Americans who moved into Pierce County back in 2015. In 2016, so last year, that number climbed to 12,000. So in less than a year, it more than doubled. So we're now #1. So where's the excitement? Well, for those in the housing market, one of the places this influx of new residents is mostly acutely felt, it depends on what side you're on. Selling a house in Tacoma has rarely been easier. But buying a house, question mark. And I can attest to this. Again, the house that we're getting, we had to offer way more than what the house was even listed at. And we were in a bit of a bidding war, and so we had a good real estate agent who knew how to deal with the market and what to expect, because they're selling like crazy, and we beat that other competitor through a pretty good trick that she knew how to do. So it was pretty tight. And since then, I have a piece of software that can track the number of people who have still been looking at that house since it's been in pending. And over the course of time, over the last 30 days, there's been at least 100 people that have saved that house in their folder to look at, to give you an idea. Even though it says pending, because a lot of times housing deals will fall through because of financing, because the seller's, gonna probably back out, or a lot of times, many times, the buyer will back out. So a lot of times these sellers will have a backup offer, which is probably much better than what they got in the initial offer. So even though someone may offer $20,000 more than what they have the house listed at, someone else may come in and say, I will give you $25,000 more than what you're asking. It's tough sledding, said Michael Robinson, owner and managing broker of Windermere. It's definitely a battleground for buyers and buyer's agent. Last year I checked in with Robinson and Guglieri as my family was in the process of selling our first home in Tacoma and buying our second. It was an intense process, highlighted by the lightning-quick sale of the house we had lived in on Hilltop for the past 5 years and the white-knuckle ride to find a new one. In the end, it worked out for us, but the stressful experience left us wondering if what we encountered was normal. As it turned out, for the time, it was. Robinson described it as an inverted sales ratio. In layman's terms, more houses pending for sale than available to be bought had created an ultra-competitive market where multiple offers had been commonplace and new homes were often selling in a matter of days. And this is very true. The inverted sales ratio, again, go to Remax.com or whatever, and this is not to pitch them or anything like that, but just go to Remax.com and go in, search for Tacoma, search for, the house that you're looking for in terms of bedrooms, bathrooms, all of that, and then put in the price range that you're looking for, and you're going to see an entire area of just places for sale. Then go in there and select houses that are not in pending status, and you're going to see that shrink dramatically. You're going to see probably very few. When we looked at this house, we basically went in there and we saw maybe 50 houses that were listed. But then when you go through and you select houses that are not in pending status, it dropped down to like 2. There were only 2 on that entire map that were available. That shows you how difficult it was. How we were able to actually get a house from up here was due to having a really good real estate agent who would go check out the house, send us information, and we had to pretty much act quickly. Not even seeing a house, we would have to act on it. We would actually search for a house in the car on our phone, search for different houses while we were there with her, so that we can drive to that location so that she can actually check out the house and we can look on the outside. And if she got approval to go in to look at the house, if someone was there, then we did it. So that's how we had to operate, was pretty much really, really quickly. And then even if a house looked like it was kind of a maybe, we kind of went with it and we numbered it, in order of if we wanted, 1 to 10, how much we wanted versus how much we didn't want it. And it seemed like we would always find one much better than the next one and then the next one. And then we would have her inquire about it if she would. And a lot of the selling agents won't tell you anything. They're kind of like, well, don't know. And they will basically put it out there later, give us your best and highest offer, because we have multiple offers, and they will send that to everyone that put an offer in. So you're pretty much at that point starting to enter into a bidding war. And that happened to us probably a couple of times before we ended up on this house, and then that was about to happen again, and she went in and did a great thing. Now, armed with this 2016 data, which validated the feeling that the market was being flooded by new potential buyers. I wondered if anything had changed. It's now 2017 after all. According to the real estate expert I spoke with, things have changed in Pierce County for those trying to buy a house. It's gotten worse. To me, it seems like the difference in just a year's time is dramatic, said Windermere's real estate agent Ann Jones. It's a marked increase in terms of year over year. The influx of both out-of-state and then out-of-area code buyers is measurable. She continued. For a while, it was kind of anecdotal. And then you have a weekend like I did this weekend when you put a house on the market, your phone's ringing constantly. And you're just looking at the area codes, and it's all of these 206 numbers. 206 is the Seattle area code, if you didn't know. They're just being forced to come down into our market. It's very real. And then while it's easy and fun to blame Seattle for all of this, the experts I spoke to said there's slightly more to do with it. Yes, people are being priced out of King County's ridiculous housing market, where as of last month, according to the Northwest Multiple Listing Service, the median sale price for homes and condos were $502,000 compared to $274,950 in Pierce County, are certainly a major factor. The same goes for those who profited off of King County's housing market, who are now looking to cash in on Pierce County market that looks ridiculously cheap by comparison, and that's very true. There are people who made a lot of money, who bought houses here back in the 90s for really nothing. Normal prices that you would find at that time pretty much anywhere. Then their house price shot through the roof in terms of value. They sell the home, and then they're sitting on $600,000, $800,000. They could easily go down to a place like Tacoma with cash on hand and buy houses. And the big problem here in this area, and I say this for the entire region, is, and I'm talking about from basically Issaquah all the way over to the island areas here, is that people will come to the table with cash. There's a lot of cash-only offers that you will see when you're looking for houses on RE/MAX. You have a lot of that. And then you have people who, they may sell the house in a conventional loan type of way, but still someone will come to the table and offer cash, and they're willing to go that route because they can get their money faster than if they go through the conventional route. So it makes it very, very difficult. But people aren't just coming from Seattle and King County. They're coming from all over the country. The real estate agent who tracks all of the people she helps buy a home in Tacoma estimated that recently a third of her business is coming from King County, a third is coming from out-of-state locations such as California or those relocating to the area via the military, and a third is comprised of locals, so a lot of the people that are just right there in Tacoma. Excuse me. Complicating matters is what these buyers are finding when they're looking here, a softening lack of available inventory for a number of reasons, including potential sellers fearful that once they unload their old home, they won't be able to find a new one. There simply aren't enough homes currently on the market to buy. This jacks up the prices and jacks up the competition. Again, Robinson pointed to the inverted sales ratio, which he describes as a super barometer of the market and a snapshot of supply and demand to back up the assertion. So it goes in here and it talks about the percentages and things like that. But this is also starting to now happen with commercial properties. There's a lot of commercial buildings in downtown Seattle and throughout Seattle that people will buy and they will convert them into apartments, or they will just repurpose them, or whatever the case they may do, and they will remodel them. But the prices for these properties are extremely expensive. So now those folks who have, or basically multimillionaires, obviously, or people who have companies, property management companies, can't really afford Seattle. So a lot of them are now going down to Tacoma, and they're able to do a lot more with the money that they have versus here in Seattle. Same goes for big developers, because again, finding the land to build here is pretty challenging, and Seattle has put in a lot of measures in place to make sure that now as you develop a property, you have to give a certain amount of money to a program that the city has set up for affordable housing. So you can avoid all of that by going down to Tacoma, and a lot of them are considering that because you have a lot more land available, because downtown Tacoma is pretty sparse in terms of land. I mean, there's a lot of places that you can develop. There's a lot of buildings you can just knock down and build on. There's a lot of lots down there where there are currently houses that they can wipe out a whole block if they wanted to, and have that block to build on, versus Seattle, where you would not even be able to buy a third of that for the price. So it's now affecting the commercial real estate market. Wanted to get this article out there because a lot of people have asked questions as to how difficult is it. Tacoma is a very, don't let people fool you. Sometimes people will, I guess, kind of troll videos and they try to talk negative about Tacoma, but it's absolutely not true. It's actually the opposite. Tacoma, maybe 10 years ago, sure, I could see that, but the Tacoma of today is way drastically different. It is to the point of where it is starting to see the same type of issues that Seattle saw and that Bellevue saw, and that's currently going on in the neighborhood of Ballard today. Is a lot of development that's going in, and housing prices going through the roof, as well as rental prices. Renting a property, whether it's an apartment, condo, whatever, is starting to go up higher here in down in Tacoma than it is in Seattle. And now the housing prices are starting to go up faster down there than they are here. They're not at the same price point yet, but they're rising faster. And now the population numbers down in Pierce County are going up faster than they are pretty much any place else. So that gives you a little bit of information. Hope this video was helpful. You can find this article at the Tacoma News Tribune, and hope you enjoyed this video. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.